Once again, I welcome you all for this series of Searching the Truth. And the topic which I would like to give for today is Among the Many Voices. Yes, among the many voices, we can hear the still small voice. We are going to meditate upon the still small voice of the Lord. And I'm sure every one of you know where we can find this verse. I'm going to read a couple of verses from 1 Kings chapter 19, from verse 11 onwards. The Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mountain, at the mouth of the cave. Then a voice said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Yes, we are going to look about Elijah over here. Now, before I could explain this verse, I would like to give a few background of how Elijah came to this place. Of course, we do know about this incident, but still I would like to quote a few things so that we can understand it better. Elijah was a very zealous man. He was a man who stood before the Lord. For 3 years there was no rain, for until the time when he said, so God had given the rain under the control of Elijah, and it did not rain. He, even as a one and only prophet, he stood against the prophets of the Baal, nearly 400 of them, and the rain came, fire from heaven came, and he killed all the prophets of Baal. Now Jezebel was so angry. She said, "Tomorrow, by this time, your head will not be on your shoulders." Now Elijah was deeply disturbed, he was depressed. He went and lay down under a tree and said, "Lord, take away my life." And an angel came, gave him food. Then with that strength, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights and came to this mountain, the mountain of the Lord. Each and every time, the Lord repeatedly asks him a question, and repeatedly he says the same answer. He says, when the Lord asked him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" he replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." We need to understand, the reason why Elijah was so down, because he couldn't believe the Lord in this area. They killed all the prophets of God, and I'm the only one left. If God did not protect those prophets, how is he going to protect me? Now this was, maybe God has a different plan for me, that I should die, or allow me to be murdered by Jezebel. But now Elijah found it very difficult to believe in the Lord on this. He was so depressed. He didn't know what to do. He could stop the rain. He could make the fire come down from heaven. He could again bring the rain. But when it comes to the death of the prophets, Elijah could not believe in the Lord. There was so much of voices running in the head of Elijah. So many voices. Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, they've killed your prophets, and now they are going to kill me. See, they have killed your prophets. They have rejected your covenant. You didn't do anything. They have burned down your altars. You didn't do anything. They have killed the prophets. You didn't do anything. And now this lady, Jezebel, is going to kill me as well. And before, I'm sure you're not going to do anything. So before she could kill me, you take away my life. Now this was the cry of Elijah. He was so depressed. There were so many voices running inside the head of Elijah. Imagine this is the same story which is running in every one of our lives. We in certain areas we are like so jealous for God. We can believe in Him. We can trust Him. But in certain areas, that never happened. That man of God died out of this disease. That man of God talked so much of faith, and he himself died of a sickness. So I'm also going to die. This is very common in each and every one of our lives. Even in the greatest man of God, this problem is running. What are we afraid of? We all have our own fears. Will the Lord do? Will the Lord protect? If He does, why didn't He protect there? I would like to say something at this point. You are unique in your own way. There are things we may not understand. There are things which we do not know. We do not know the behind the scenes scenario. Now, look at the way God is answering Elijah. God said to Elijah, in verse 9, and the word of the Lord came to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? Again, he repeats the same thing. And in the 11th verse, the Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. He is in a cave, and the Lord is telling him, go out and stand. Come before my presence. I'm going to pass by. God is asking a question. He is giving an answer, and God is not, after Elijah gave a reply, now God is telling, instead of giving a comfortable answer, a comforting answer, or promising answer, God is telling him, come, stand, come before me, come out. The Lord is not answering Elijah anything, because, when I saw the way the Lord was dealing with Elijah, it was so different. First, a strong wind comes and was just tearing the mountain apart. Now imagine the sound of that wind which tore the mountains apart. See how powerful the wind would have been. But Elijah, that sound, tried to find God in that sound. Oh, God is in this sound. God is in this sound. He's tearing everything. So, which is like, how Elijah, like when Jezebel said, I will, tomorrow by now, your head will not be on your shoulders. It's like Elijah wanted God to just tear her then and there itself. Tear everything apart. How dare you speak to my servant like this? He wanted God to intercede over there. Come immediately over there and do something to her. But nothing happened. God allowed her to talk to me. She threatened me. He wanted something to happen. That was the anger of Elijah. But he had so much of anger and frustration, but he could not do anything. And nothing happened to her.